the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. It's 6 questions in less than 9 minutes because leaders know how to be concise. Well, let's jump right into it. First question, in a few sentences, tell us your name and what you do.
Hi, Sean. Thanks for having me. My name is Toby Martin. I'm the CEO of Extensis. We're a 27-year-old software company in Portland, Oregon. We make software ranging from brand management for things like font management, digital asset management, and image compression.
Oh, great. Thank you. Question number 2, what's the best thing about working with a team?
That's a great question. I'd say the single best thing is everything, which is every day I learn something new from the team. We have such a diverse set of backgrounds and skills within the team that anytime you're open to learning, if you just open your ears, you'll be guaranteed to learn something new. And I would say the second thing is really going to be the relationships. So much of what we do as a team and as an organization is really based on the relationships we have with each other. So I think really the strength of the company is the individual relationships, how those relationships merge over time, and then what we can learn from each other to strengthen the company.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. Question number 3, I hear from other leaders of teams that it can sometimes be a challenge to get team members engaged. Tell me your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. But the first thing I would say is a lot of times I look at engagement almost like it's a mirror on us as leaders. So it really reflects whether we're engaged and how we're engaging the teams more so than individually about them. Some pointers on that, though, is I think it starts with empowerment. So everybody on the team has to feel empowered. Like Steve Jobs said, we didn't hire experts to tell them what to do. We hired them to tell us what to do. So you have to empower them. You have to reinforce that and be consistent with that as well, because again, bringing people in and changing stories back and forth too often can cause some disengagement. And I think the last thing is really about alignment behind the strategy. As long as the people understand the strategy and understand the role that they play in that, I believe they'll be engaged because everyone wants to show up, do good work, and deliver good results.
Oh, great ideas. I love that. Thank you. Question number 4, what other successful leaders, such as yourself, should be on my podcast?
Probably in times like these, I would certainly especially encourage us to talk more to politicians because I think they're certainly leading some things up. We've had some outstanding conversations here in Portland with the Portland Business Alliance and some of our elected representatives. However, probably the one that I would say would be most apropos would be Paul Henderson, who's the author of the book, The Outcome Generation. So Paul started as a leader of teams in ERP. He lives down in Australia and he ran the APAC group for a large ERP vendor. And then he took those learnings and actually wrote a book called The Outcome Generation. I think I'm up to buying 62 copies of these for the team at Extensis and actually handing it out. We've done custom training. And so what he did was really take the leadership and engagement that he saw and turned it to thought leadership as opposed to just simply leading teams. So I think it's a good balance between what he learned as a leader and then how he's taken that and applied that to a little bit more broadly of a sort of an approach to leading teams. Oh,
great suggestion. Thank you. Question number 5, what piece of advice would you give to other professionals who are leading teams?
Well, I would start with communication. I firmly believe that it all starts with communication. So I think you have to communicate with balance. You have to find the right balance for people that are intellectually able to see and understand things. So you want to give them enough detail, but not too much detail. I think you have to be genuine in your communication. Being human right now, especially, and being open and honest about communication is more important. It's okay to say, I don't know, or we're not sure. So I think you have to be genuine about that. I think with that genuineness comes consistency. So being consistent and repeating the same thing over and over again, because as people, we need to hear things multiple times before it sticks. I would say we have to rally our teams. Again, especially going through tough times, whether it's now or just downturns in business, sometimes you have to get out your pom-poms and cheerlead the teams. So that's extremely important to provide that sort of positive reinforcement. And then I would say the last thing is really to give a clear vision and lead so that everybody has that North Star, but then also explain how you're going to get there by core values and culture. Never more so than where we are right now are things like culture, core values, and the ways that you're going to deliver on your mission and your vision and your strategy more important. So, but again, I would say start with communication, always. That's the beginning and the end of that.
Great insights. Thank you so much. 6th and final question. Tell us about your first job.
Well, my first job was actually in a zoo, so I won't tell you what I scooped for $2.75 an hour back then. I'll go to the first job out of school, which was in a small publishing firm in my hometown of Lafayette, Indiana. I was hired on to do sales of advertising in a B2B newspaper. About 6 months in, they did a reorg, and I found myself confronted with, well, you can either move to accounting or you can take another job. So at that point, I moved into the accounting department and had no background in accounting. I could add 2 and 2. But what it taught me was not only the pace of change and understanding and looking back at the necessity of the changes that were made, but really that the consistency of being able to follow through and change what you're doing, reinvent yourself, re-innovate constantly and continually throughout your career was going to be important. So one of the first things that I learned was absolutely you have to roll with the punches, be able to rise to the top and be flexible with what you're doing because plans don't always stay the same way.
That's great. Thank you so much. Well, Toby, thanks so much for being on our podcast today. How can people find you?
Easiest way is at www.extensis.com. That's EXTENSIS, or through typical social media channels, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and such. Or you can email me directly at Toby, Toby, at extensis.com.
Thank you. Well, this is Sean Richards with the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders share their insights. Thanks so much for joining us. You can find more tips and ideas at our LinkedIn posts at Blue Sky Business Consulting.